On numbers 8 through 10, we're asked to factor each completely. These are all quadratics, so when we factor them, we know we're going to have our answers as a binomial times a binomial. Now there's two different ways that we learn to factor. One for when our a value is 1, which is the case with 8 and 9. So remember, a is the number in front of your x squared, and when there's not a number there, then it's an understood 1. So both of these are a equals 1 problems. So on this one, remember this middle number is called the b value, and the constant's called the c value. To find your factor pairs, you just want the factors of c that add to get your b value. So on number 8, we want factors of 12 that add to get 7. So we can list our factor pairs of 12. 1 times what? 1 times 12. 2 times what? 2 times 6. 3 times what? 3 times 4. And then when you get to 4, 4 times 3 is already listed, so you start listing them again. Now, which one of those factor pairs adds to get 7? That would be 3 and 4, and they're both positive. So we're ready to write our binomial factors. We know the first terms multiply to get x squared, so they each have to just be an x. And then the number part of each binomial is using these factor pairs. One is a positive 3, and one is a positive 4. Since this is multiplication, the order doesn't matter. So if you were to write x plus 4 times x plus 3, you would also be correct. Those are exactly the same. Now let's look at our second one where a is also 1. So remember, factors of c that add to get b would tell us we want factors of, this sign goes with that number, so factors of negative 15 that add to get a positive 2. So now when we're listing factors of negative 15, for the numbers to multiply to get a negative, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So if we look at the numbers first, 1 and 15 multiply to get 15. But one of them has to be negative. So we'd have negative 1 and positive 15 as a choice, and positive 1 and negative 15 as a choice. There's not a number you can multiply by 2 to get 15, so we move on to 3. 3 times 5 is 15. But remember, one has to be negative. So negative 3 and positive 5, or positive 3 and negative 5. And now we have all the factor pairs of negative 15. We want the pair that adds to get a positive 2. So be careful, don't choose this one because that adds to get negative 2. We want negative 3 and positive 5. So our factor pairs, what times what gives me x squared? Those are both x's. These numbers are using our factor pair, a negative 3 and a positive 5. And remember, x plus 5 and x minus 3 are also correct. On number 8, when we were listing the factors of a positive 12, remember, two negatives multiply to get a positive as well. So we could also have looked at negative 1 and negative 12, negative 2 and negative 6, negative 3 and negative 4, but since they were adding to get a positive, I knew those were not possibilities, so I didn't list those. If you don't know the factor pairs of a number, remember you can use your calculator to help you. So if you don't know the factor pairs of 12, you can go to your y equals and put 12 divided by x. Whatever number you're wanting factor pairs for, divide by x. Then you can look at your table. And I'll start at 0 here, and we can see our factor pairs. There's 1 and 12, there's 2 and 6, there's 3 and 4, and then they start repeating. 4 and 3 is the same thing as 3 and 4. So you would know these are the only 3 factor pairs for 12.